You're watching Alaska's high-definition news leader. This is the KTVA 11 Evening News.
Best fishery numbers for king salmon on the Kuskokwim River look encouraging, but then again, there's been a ban on fishing for kings since May 20th. After last year's record low run, fishery managers are taking no chances.
That's not all that's different about this season of sacrifice. KTVA 11's Rhonda McBride joins us with more about the battle for control of the fishery. Rhonda.
In an unprecedented move, the federal government has taken over subsistence fishing on the Kuskokwim River from the state to protect subsistence and to allow what it calls a limited cultural and social fishery. The takeover stems from a long unresolved clash between federal law and the state constitution, and some say a clash of values.
Soak in ceylon, and we call it porkfish. This is the fish I grew up on. I don't want to be without fish. I can't live without fish.
Like many Native families, the Nannings eat a mix of Western and traditional food, but king salmon is the mainstay.
If you love chicken and you couldn't have chicken, you'd feel how I'm feeling.
New dress. Give it to me, I'll take the tag off.
Myra Nanning is both a grandfather and leader of the largest tribal organization in the state.
Let's see, Chloe, your shoes.
He understands the need to step back and forth between two worlds.
Wow.
The modern cash economy and the subsistence lifestyle, the heart of Native culture.
You work together as a whole family to put that fish away for the winter. You teach your children how to cut fish. These are things that are intertwined with the spirituality of working together as a family, as a unit. If you take away the ability and the opportunities for people to harvest food, which is work in itself, and you take that away from the people that have relied on it for centuries, then you have other social problems.
Nanning says food stamps and other handouts are usually offered when salmon runs crash, but they can create a culture of dependency.
And that makes me mad.
Nanning welcomes the federal takeover of the Kuskokwim.
The state has mismanaged. You've heard the term. The state of Alaska is the best manager of the fisheries in the world. If they were the best managers of the fisheries in the world, why are we in this situation today?
The state, Nanning says, has failed at all levels of government to make subsistence a priority.
I would say that the state's record in that regard is contrary to that perspective.
There are no king salmon nets in the Kuskokwim this year, but in good years, the harvest approaches 80,000 fish, the largest subsistence king fishery in Alaska.
Given the importance of that subsistence fishery, given its size, just in the way of sheer numbers of harvest, it's an aspect that the state has always focused on.
People in urban areas of Alaska, which most of the biologists are from and managers are from, they don't understand how it is to live out here.
It is a disconnect that often leads to conflict.
The whole idea of co-management is huge.
Bev Hoffman is co-chair of an advisory board which gives the state input on how to manage the fishery. Members who represent communities up and down the river feel the state gives them little flexibility to do what's right for both the people and the fish. That's why there's widespread support for tribes to have a role in management of the fishery.
I want to see us all together at the table equally.
As in the state, the feds, and the people.
You have no right doing what you're doing!
These have been troubled waters. Some communities have defied bans on king salmon fishing, while others have refused to cooperate with fish counting projects. An action taken by a small village's tribal government may calm the waters. Under a federal law known as the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, the Puskiak asked the federal government to take over management of the river. In Alaska, the state has control of navigable waters, but ANILCA allows the federal government to take over management of fisheries on waters adjacent to federal lands, such as wildlife refuges. to protect not just the salmon, but also the subsistence culture and allow for a rural priority, which the state's constitution does not allow. Tiny Napaskiak's request has led to a federal takeover of about 200 miles of river, all the way from Aniak to the mouth of the Kuskokwim. Federal managers will also allow a limited harvest of 1,000 king salmon, essentially what tribal governments along the river had asked for, a few fish to keep culture and hope alive.
We wouldn't be here on this earth if it wasn't for the food that was provided by our Maker.
Federal management doesn't end the season of sacrifice on this river. 1,000 fish are not enough to feed the multitudes. But for many, it marks the beginning of a season of hope.
On Facebook, I've asked for fish camp photos on the Kuskokwim, and we got one from Carolyn Moses of Bethel. She says that she's okay with this empty fish rack if it means more kings make it upriver to spawn. Now, this one is one of Carolyn's favorite photographs from the past. She says, hopefully soon, quote, Lord willing, we'll have reds and chums to cut and smoke. And we'll be posting the rest of the photos sent to us on our website, ktva.com, as well as more detailed information about federal managers' plans for the subsistence fishery on the Kuskokwim.